working on it. Hey, you've got this part of the video. You've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks. It's Thursday night. It's the 9th of May, 2024. It's 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific. If you've got this any other time than that, you've got the recorded version. And that's okay. Hang tight. You're on the live YouTube page. We'll get started here in just a minute. Maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 minutes. But as we get started, I've got the guys from hometech.fm with me. They're all here tonight. Gavin, TJ, and even Seth appears tonight. Everybody, guys, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks. Good to have you here.
I'm the rarest of all Pokemon, I guess.
You are. Are you the holographic one that's worth some money now or something? My kids growing up, they always wanted the holographic ones. Dad, it's holographic. And you're like, it's just a Pokemon card. You'll be okay. All right. So you might be wondering how we're going to get all 4 of our voices in. It'll be fine. We'll do some practicing. We'll start. If you're a regular listener to the pre-show, we sometimes do a pour. And so, Gavin, I'll start with you. You're the most experienced with this, and we'll go around the horn. Gavin, what are you got SodaStream again? What are you drinking tonight, Gavin?
SodaStream again.
Well, at least you're consistent. That's for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? I especially poured this one because I knew tonight I had a Tim Hortons coffee earlier, but I just went and made this SodaStream because I don't drink, but I like my SodaStream.
Yeah. You too, Gavin. Your mic's a little low.
I'll just adjust it up. Yep.
There you go. Bring it up for me. Do you do coffee at night, Gavin? Are you
in the evening sometimes? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't keep me up. It keeps me warm.
Yeah. It just makes me burp. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I drink it after lunch, I'm fine. It's weird. I'm fine right up until lunch, and then as soon as I have lunch, I can't drink coffee anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I stay awake. that's too. All right. So SodaStream, what's the flavor on that, Gavin? What do you?
Today I'm just drinking the regular Pepsi. Pepsi actually has its own flavor for SodaStream. So
that's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah. Do you think it's close? Do you ever do any taste testing where you're like real Pepsi, SodaStream Pepsi?
It's close, but it's not the same because the Pepsi one would have more bubbles. SodaStream kind of fades over a little bit as you drink it slowly, but it's kind of like if you had Coke and RC Cola, maybe, they're a little different, but you still can enjoy both of them.
Is it really that much cheaper to make your own Pepsi and SodaStream than just buy a 2-liter of whatever's on sale at whatever grocery store you have?
Have you seen Canadian prices in the grocery stores?
That's true. That's true. Sorry to rub it in.
A loaf of bread starts costing $5,
But your healthcare is free. You'll be fine. Your healthcare is free.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gavin, welcome. TJ, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I am not drinking SodaStream. I used to sell a lot of SodaStream, but I never had one. I'm drinking a Clear American Black Cherry sparkling water from Walmart. So super fancy today. But yeah.
How's the flavor? Is it like one of those where there's a hint of flavor? Okay, and while you're answering, I need to shut something off. But is there a hint of flavor? Or is it good flavor?
This one's sweetened, but it's not like overly sweet or anything. It's got a pretty good flavor to it. I've tried a lot of the sparkling waters, and I don't know, for some reason I always go back to the Walmart ones. So we'll just schedule like 6 of each one for pickup at a time. Just buy a bunch and have it for a while.
Cool. That's always good to have it. I have a beer fridge that keeps the sodas and the beers cold, so you just always got it. Could you put it in a fridge? Yes. Is it cooler in a beer fridge? Yes. That's what.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
That's what.
Probably stays a little colder too, I'd imagine, than like your regular fridge.
No, actually a little bit warmer because you don't want beer. Well, Americans like their beer really cold, but the way to really drink it's just a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
So, anyways, well, thanks, TJ. Good to have you here. Seth, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me. I've been listening for a while, and
Oh, thanks. Thanks for listening. Always appreciate that. Good to have you on. Gavin's always talking smack about you. So
I've heard it. Yeah.
I mean, DJ, but Gavin does. Yeah. I'm like, Gavin, that's enough.
I take it easy once in a while, Gavin just keeps going in.
Oh, Seth, what are you drinking tonight?
I made a hastily made Negroni. So.
Oh, okay. We thought maybe a Manhattan.
Yeah, I'm worried about this one. I haven't tasted it yet, though.
Oh, well, give it a taste. Tell us the profile. How'd you do? What's in it?
It's okay. So the only thing I really changed too much, is the gin, and it's a Hendrix Luna, so it's kind of a.
Oh.
I don't know. It's more of it's less floral, I guess. No, this one's kind of got some floral taste to it, so I'm okay with this one. This one will work.
Do you like your gin kind of more like you're licking the eucalyptus tree,
Yes.
or do you like it? Okay.
Full. Yeah. I want to eat the flowers, I think, is kind of where I end up. I bounce around, but for the most part, the Bombay Sapphire, you can put me right there, and I'll just sit with the bottle all night. So nobody else wants to drink it. I'm lucky.
Is that the one? Go ahead. Sorry.
All my friends and everything, they're all drinking the fancy, what are the brown liquid things that people drink? The
bourbons.
Bourbons. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. The fancy bottles. And I'm like, those cost so much. Mine.
They do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, bourbon's out of control. It's Canadian pricing with bourbon. Like you can't even. You're like, this is dumb. Hopefully we're at the end of that bubble. My daughter likes to make martinis. So gin martinis. So we always, I think gray whale is kind of what we go with for a gin. It's inexpensive, maybe $22 a bottle or something like that to get here. And so we keep a couple of those. Comes in a light blue bottle. Pretty nice gin. Listen, gin has felt the pressure of bourbon a little bit, and their bottles have kind of picked up as well. Everybody's got these really decorative bottles that they're trying to get out there. But I think we're at the end of the bourbon bubble. I sure hope so, because Old Forester came out with a new release, and it came out at $125, and you're like, yeah, exactly, yeah.
See,
that goes out.
the bourbon craze and the IPA craze can end, and I would greatly appreciate it.
Don't you think we're at the end of the IPA?
I hope so. They're so everywhere, and I feel like they're just overdone. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't like IPAs, but every time I've tried one, they just all taste the same.
What's been nice, TJ, about if we think of the IPA specifically, they have pushed craft beer forward. And like I'm drinking Empyrean. Empyrean Brewing out of Lincoln, Nebraska. Their Dark Side Vanilla Porter, not an IPA, a sweet porter, and real chocolatey and dark and delicious. And so in that IPA movement, we saw a lot of ales come out. We saw a lot of porters. We saw some, a bunch of different kinds of beer come out, and there's some good ones, but the cans are always ridiculous. They're like works of art, right?
Mm-hmm. That's very nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So so that's what I'm drinking tonight. And so it's a delicious. The kids love this. A little sweeter than a Guinness. Guinness can be a little bitter after a while. So this would be $1,000 in Canada. Gavin, sorry.
Now you're understanding what we have to put up with.
He lives in Canada. He lives in Hawaii.
And you have to drive to the beer store specifically to buy it too, which makes it even worse somehow.
They don't sell it at Tim Hortons. You can't get
it's in our grocery stores, but not everything is.
No, I didn't know it was in the grocery stores now.
Yeah.
Do you separate liquor in some in some states here in the U.S. They separate the liquor. You can
separate everything.
Beer.
We do here.
Beer.
Yeah.
Ohio's
liquor stores and beer stores. Yes.
Okay. And are they state mandated? Are they country mandated prices, or is it kind of fair?
You know what? Canada's like your 51st state, I guess.
Oh,
call us one of the states if you want. We feel like it sometimes,
Yeah,
well, but it's run by the province, I guess. I guess it's a province.
Yeah, not all states in the United States do that. There are some. Is Ohio one?
Yeah.
They ABC stores or whatever they call them, right? The state mandates the price. Seth, you're in Florida. They're free market, right? Or do they?
Free market for the most part. There's still the weird laws where you can't have the liquor in the grocery store. So there's a separate door that you have to walk out of the grocery store and walk into the liquor. I don't get it. But
it's got to be phically.
It's
got to be physically divided. Yeah.
We have a Giant Eagle grocery store, and they have a liquor store inside of it, which I always thought was weird. So you still have to walk through the grocery store to get to it, but it's a separate entity.
Yeah.
Yep. Iowa, the state across from us. So I'm in Nebraska, Iowa, just across the river. They're that way too, where they've got a kind of separate. It's got a door, so it's not. You don't have to go out and around, but they have a door. And then in Nebraska, it's just whatever. It's not. It's whatever here. Although there are some what we call them blue laws in Omaha where they couldn't sell liquor before noon on Sundays.
Yeah, we have those too where they can't
No.
sell. Some of them can't even sell alcohol on Sunday at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it depends on. There's different types of licenses for that, and so I think that's why it exists now.
Seth, since we haven't had you on before, I'll ask you one question. I may ask you this again in the show, but best part of Florida for you? I mean, what do you really like about Florida? Why are you there?
I'm here because well, I don't know. I moved out here for school, and I met a girl, and then we got
it's the
married,
girl.
and then
Yeah.
we had a kid, and now we're here.
Yeah,
We're in Florida.
nice.
And it's nice. It's nice here sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to dodge the hurricanes during the summer, but other
Yes.
than that, it's pretty good.
Yes, you do. And where about in the state are you?
I am
North,
on
south.
I'm on the west coast, so south of Tampa.
Okay. Okay.
About, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour or so in Sarasota.
So like midway down? Is that about midway in the state, or is it farther north?
It's actually a little bit further south than mid.
Okay.
I would say Tampa's about midway. Like if
Yeah.
you're-
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tampa's about midway, and if you keep
Okay.
going south a little bit further, we're not all the way to the end where the swamp is.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're a little bit north of that.
You do have some, you get some pretty good weather. We get the tornadoes out here. I had that last week, and TJ had
had
one
that
too.
the other night when we were
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah, we were
going
recording.
off.
I was like, guys, I hear the sirens. I gotta go.
I'm gonna go.
Luckily, we were almost done with the show anyway, so.
Yeah, the weather can, fortunately tonight, I think clear for everybody. Everybody good? You're
Yeah,
not,
I don't think anything.
Good.
Gavin, no Canadian weather or anything like that? That's
Canadian
snowstorm.
No,
You have any
no
snow imminent?
No.
Wind
Actually, this
sand,
year we
sorry.
got very little snow this year. Like we got a lot of rain, but we got very little snow.
Yeah. We're working on speaking of Canada, Ron says it means the guest low. So TJ, I brought you down a little bit. Seth, I think I can still get a little bit more on you, but let me,
I've got to figure out how to switch the mic
you're
around.
you're up quite a bit. And then Gavin, let me look at you. Well, we'll have to wait for Seth to come back.
Yeah,
So
Seth is
we'll,
intense.
guys, live friends, we'll get the best we can, and then I'll fix that. I'll fix most of it in post-production. So apologize if we can't get it all fixed. If there may be some, it's really hard to get 4 people at all the same level live.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So just put up with it, and then I'll fix it. I'll fix it as it goes. I hope I didn't offend Seth.
Yeah, well, I'm in my temporary office right now. Our house is under construction, so I'm in the Three
nice.
Seasons room, as some people call it.
Okay.
And, not the best lighting or acoustics. So
Well, you got the fuzzy background, and actually your audio is pretty good. So
nice. That's good.
you're in good shape. Yeah, Brian says we got the whole crew this evening. We'll get Seth back. I don't know what happened to him. I hope I didn't make him mad. Don't think I made him mad by saying his volume was too low.
That's all right. Gavin ribs them all the time, so I think you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Seth, I was
See, he
afraid
gets
I
over
had
it quickly.
offended you because I told you your audio was too low.
No, no, it
You're
should be
fine.
better, right?
Yeah.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no way to switch the audio for some reason. So
Huh.
there we
Well,
go.
that's weird.
Yeah.
I told the live folks that just if it's hard to get 4 people perfectly balanced live, and I'm not going to try. We'll fix most of this in post, and so it'll be just fine. Okay, let me kick this thing off. I've got a little intro, and then we'll get to you guys, and we'll dig into the content. So here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 607 with the dudes from HomeTech.fm, recorded on May 9th, 2024. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, sometimes outside of your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a not-so-stormy Bellevue, Nebraska. We spent kind of a little bit of the pre-show talking about the various forms of weather. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you are safe and in a good spot from weather. I think we're in, no matter where you live in the United States, you're in for, and maybe even Canada too. We'll bring Canada in, make that acceptable. You might be in for some interesting weather. Of course, we'll post the show with world-class show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers, keeping things going every single month. If you want to join the team on that, head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. And of course, big thanks to Christian Johnson, who joined us last week. Fun show catching up with him. and all the things that he's doing over there at Maple Grove Partners. And so, Christian, thanks for coming on. I've got the guys from hometech.fm on tonight. I've got them all in the same place at the same time. It's not dangerous because they're in different locations. Don't worry about it. They're all safe. But gentlemen, Gavin, TJ, and Seth, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks. Good to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Great to be here.
Seth, we haven't met you. We know Gavin really well. TJ's been on as well. First time for you. Tell us a little bit for listeners as they're meeting you for the first time. Just give us, kind of where you're from and tell, a little, maybe just a smidge about your story of home tech and how you got there and what you do there and your role on the show.
How did I get here?
Yeah. How did that work?
Just started thinking about it. It's been a journey, I guess. Let's see. I started off kind of in an early career doing installs. I kind of had a networking background. I did some computer work out of high school and through college, and then kind of landed into like this weird home audio market, I guess, where people were building homes and they were like, yeah, we want speakers in here and we want a central vac. That was the big thing. Yeah. And we would go out and drill holes and install things and install wires and punch down Cat5. And that's kind of where I started. I went all the way through that kind of thing where I was installing, designing, all the way up to sales, and kind of moved out of that into kind of a role with a distributor doing programming. So I'm kind of doing more programming these days and support for dealers out, or the professional installers out in the field that were doing the job I used to have. So that's kind of what I'm doing. A couple of years back, I was listening to, I was listening to some podcasts, some of the very popular podcasts that are out there, and listening to some interesting takes on what the home automation market was doing. And I was like, there's got to be something. There's got to be a podcast out there that's like some pro integrators that have dealt with all this stuff before, because there was nothing new about Nest. There was nothing new about these new products that were coming to market, and it was everything was coming on board, and we were seeing Staples Connect and all these different hubs come out. Well, I teamed up with Jason Griffin. We came out with Home Tech. I don't know, within a month we were recording our first episode, and just like, let's get it out there, let's get started. And we've been recording quite a bit since then. We've been recording, what are we up to? 480, 481? I should be editing a show tonight. Yeah, 41.
Well, thank you for taking a night off. And...
No, it's all right.
The
guys know it'll be next week sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you guys? So you're weekly. Do you miss weeks? Are there times when you say not this week, or we don't have enough people, or is it every week regardless?
It's only been a couple of times, I think, in the past year or so at least.
Yeah, I would say it's usually we try and hit every week. I know it bounces around holidays and that kind of thing where we won't record or anything, but for the most part we try and catch up every week, see what we were doing, go over some of the things that have happened in the news. There used to be a lot more in the news around home automation.
Why do you think there's less?
There's less companies being acquired by $3 billion from Google. So once that Amazon. Money dries up.
Or Amazon.
Yeah.
Seth, I've heard that you're the most thorough, get the project finished every time person on the program. Is that true? You're always getting your projects done, Seth?
I noticed that Gavin had sent over some suggested topics, and I saw that was mentioned.
I feel like we need to help you, and this is a perfect forum for this.
Wow.
I'm in the safe place. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Nobody's listening. Don't worry. No one's listening. No one's watching. This is a safe place. Just us.
Okay. Yeah, we won't hassle. Well, not much anyways. We won't. One of my previous hosts, Mike Weger, he was the opposite. He would start projects, finish them, and sell them within a week.
That's amazing.
So he'd come on the show and he'd be like, yeah, I got this thing and I'm doing this new thing. And then I could bring him back next week for an update. Hey, Mike, what do we do? He was on every week with me. He's like, oh, yeah, I already sold it. I was like, what?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, it just didn't. I didn't want to deal with it. So he was pretty fast. Pretty fast guy. So I think some of your folks are out here listening. So we have Dot Morton who says, I'm so used to listening to these voices without pictures. It's sort of weird to have faces attached to the voices now. Do you guys, so you record on video, but it's audio only then? Do you release a video version of what you guys do at hometech.fm?
Typically, no. We meet. We use Zoom to meet up and chat for the back end audio, but everything is recorded locally, and then we compile that and put it into the old fashioned podcast format. And
just
I guess
audio.
Yeah, YouTube has like a thing now where it can bring that in as the podcast feed as a thing. So it's been posting to YouTube. I don't know. We tried using StreamYard at the beginning. We may come back and use something similar. Or StreamYard again in the future. I don't know. We'll see. The video workflow is a lot harder than audio.
Yeah, it is. Unless you go, I mean, I don't do any edits. So we literally, a few, cut off the pre-show, cut off the post stuff. If there's something, if we had a problem in the middle of it, you can kind of edit it. But most of the time, I don't do any of the sort. So TJ says he's in chat as well. And he says it's always weird feeling seeing voices, faces for the first time. As you listen to podcasts, you make up your own face for these people, right? And then you see them for the first time and you're like, oh, that's not at all.
Disappointing.
Yeah. I've done that for a lot of people I've listened to for like several years. And I finally looked up their face and I was like, that is not what I was expecting at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The most recent one I think for me was there's one guy that does it for Unraid called Space Invader 1. He totally did not match the voice that I thought he was,
he does not match his voice at all.
Yeah.
He's got some great videos. His content is just
awesome.
Spot on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is weird. He also says it's the equivalent of, oh, you're taller in real life than I thought.
So that actually happened with Gavin and I, because the first time I met Gavin in real life, I didn't realize that dude is like 8 foot tall. Did you know that? He is so tall.
He's a big guy.
And I saw him walking towards me and I was like, what the heck? Because he sits in his chair like this and you're not expecting him to be that tall.
I'm just 6'2". It's not 8. 6'2".
Yeah, it's close.
TJ, how tall are you then?
I don't even know, honestly. I make it up every time. Every time I have to get my license renewed, I make it up.
Right.
I've been 5'10", I've been 5'8". They never check, so I can be whatever I want.
Less than one Gavin is what we say.
That's right.
It's like stones, the British measurement.
Oh man.
One Gavin, two Gavin.
Two Gavin. He's a tall guy.
Brian says I listen to the Home Tech each week. And fun to have you all on Home Gadget Geeks all at the same time. So
awesome.
Fun for me as well. Well, let's dig into some content a little bit. TJ, we'll get started with you and talking about some maybe a lighting experience that you've had. No, wait a minute. You said you've got something being built too. Can I say that? Is that public? Did I mess up something?
I've been posting pictures online. So,
okay. All right.
It's whatever at this point.
How fun, are you getting to take all this stuff that you talk about all the time and put it in the new house?
Yeah, so that's what's been kind of nice, and I've kind of went overboard in a way, but I'm slowly refining and getting it there. But I've been, professional home automation person, I guess AV would be the technical term, for the past like 10 years now. And so I've been doing this stuff in people's houses and installing, smart switches and thermostats and all this stuff. But I've never been able to fully do it in my own house. And so when we got the house, I went out and I automated all the switches and, I put, the TVs on the wall and, everything you do with a house, but I was able to do it myself. And so that's been fun. And, we've been upgrading the house and doing different things to it. And I try to do as much as I can. I find, the tear out and the demolition to be like the best way to save money for this kind of stuff. Is like I'll just tear everything apart and pay somebody else to come in and put it back together.
Yeah.
So,
do you find, TJ, like, would you rather build new and put the home automation in that way, or would you rather retro it into an older home, have the character of an older home, but retro some of that home automation in?
For me personally, I think I would just go with the older home. The new home is nice, but I don't think it's necessary for home automation in general. I think you can do that in any house. So for me, I like a little house or a house with a little bit of character. So I would definitely choose the older one.
Yeah. Seth, what about you? You've do that as well. You've done those installs.
Oh, yeah.
Prefer new or retro?
A A little of both. What I really like is hiding things. I like hiding the technology. I don't like to see it. I don't like to see wall clutter. I don't like to see anything. Like if you see I want to see the TV, a sound bar or something below it, and I don't even want to see the audio system. I don't want to know it exists. So like my goal would be one of these rooms that is out there with the TV and it just sounds amazing. And you don't see any of the technology. It's built into the room. It's part of the room and it works. That's always been my goal.
The hardest part, though, of that, this is where I get frustrated, is I think it takes the longest to hide everything. I mean, you got to think about the design and where you're going to put things and how wires, what they're going to go behind. If you think, and I lose my patience, I kind of just like I get in, I just want to be done. Like the second I start, I'm like, why is this not done already?
Mm-hmm.
How do you, if you want them all hidden, how do you get to that point where it's worth spending all that time to get it hidden?
Tricks of the trade, I guess. It's a lot of experience and kind of knowing what products to aim for and look at. There is, especially as an integrator, and I remember just like flipping over catalogs when we had those and just like pouring through tiny little, accessory products to see what each one of them were and how they matched up with the main product. I'm like, oh, I can put this with this and make it, hide this away. And a lot of forum work, really, back in the day was just talking to other integrators and seeing how they were doing it, and then or seeing somebody in a magazine and reaching out. And sometimes them and find out who they are and talk to them. How'd you do that? How did that work? And picking up all those little tips and tricks really over the years, it's kind of a learned experience thing. So I think that's probably the biggest thing like a custom integrator person could bring to the table for you, other than not having to do the work yourself. That said, like that type of install is pretty inflexible, right? Like you can't, you're not running a wire across the floor, down the wall from the TV or anything. So anytime you want to go change something out, like if there's a new HDMI cable, well, the TV's coming down, the sound bar is coming down. You're gonna have to retro that cable down the wall, and put it all back together. So it's a lot more work sometimes.
Yeah. Lots of zip ties.
Zip ties, Velcro. Oh yeah.
My TV installs at home look clean. Just don't look behind them. That's behind them is a mess.
You just pull all the cables up and then just zip tie them.
Yeah, because that's all you can do. I mean, you can organize them and stuff, but as soon as you like need to like access them or anything, the organization of the wires usually makes it worse at that time.
Yep.
And so like it's funny, we get people that are like, I want the wires on the back to look nice and neat, and I'm like, I mean, you might, but it's not going to help you long term.
And I always have that one wire that hangs below the TV that sticks out. And it doesn't bother me. I'll never get to it, but the wife points it out like every day. Hey, that wire's hanging.
Gaffer's tape.
Still hanging.
Gaffer's tape.
Yeah.
That stuff is great. That's what I use to attach cables to the back of TVs.
Yeah. It's a way to do it. And I kind of do that as soon as I organize my computer cables. It seems like the next day something comes up that I need to then get into them. And then I can leave them undone for months or years, never get into them. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to organize these things. And then I start doing that again the next day. You're like, oh, I need in here. TJ, I'm going to ask you first. When you think about lighting, and we have all these options today with lights, what you can do. And there's all kinds, like just go to any hardware store and there's all these different kinds and all the hubs, and there's ecosystems. For the average consumer, is it possible to go with the same stuff and have one app that controls them all? Or are we just kind of screwed to be like, well, you're going to have 5 apps on your phone and you're going to bring them together with the Amazon ecosystem? TJ, thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you can do that depending on what your end goal is. So the problem, I think, with home automation at the moment is that you really have to determine what you want your home automation system to do. And there's certain people like Gavin, Seth, and I who we want our automation system to kind of do everything, if not most everything. And that's hard to do without proper planning. But I think if you want individualized stuff like lighting control, it's super easy to do. Lutron Caseta, for example, is probably the best like consumer option out there right now. It works great. It's lightning fast. They have, dimmers and switches and a couple other things that fit into it. So if you just want that, you can do that. But it also ties into everything as well. So if you wanted to bring it into Amazon Alexa or Smart Things or Home Assistant, whatever it is, you can do that. And so like that's a really good option for, I would say, the majority of people. Unless you want to get into other things like dimmable LED strips and tunable, LED bulbs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's always the thing. I bought some Christmas lights that are smart, that put them out there, and they're Philips, but they have all their own Philips app, different than the Philips Hub app. That like download this app and then it has firmware, and you're like, oh, it's you check the firmware. Gavin, when you think about lighting, do you think you can consolidate it to one company, or is it just, can you just go with what's available, what you can get, and just make it work through the apps, or make it work through Home Assistant?
I wouldn't say you consolidate to one company, but even consolidating it to one protocol. So lighting's actually come a long way in the last few years, especially with the neutral versus no neutral lights. You could get lights today that if you don't have a neutral in your box, they'll still work. That's, that makes things much better for people. But I like to, myself personally, I like to keep my lights, smart lights and light switches the same protocol. So when you have a Z-Wave smart light and a Z-Wave switch, you can use something called associations to match them together so that you're able to control that smart light without the hub being on. And Zigbee has its own version called bindings. So if you had Zigbee smart lights and Zigbee switches, if your hub ever was off for whatever reason, they still control each other. You could still control it. It still works. So that's how I approach lighting and smart lights and stuff like that. Is I try and keep it to a single protocol for that situation.
Seth, you mentioned you doing, I can't remember what you said, professional installs. Are you still doing them? No, you said you're doing more engineering stuff.
I work
now?
for like on the distributor side of things, and I mostly do programming. Kind of my day job is more project management and server DevOps, like just literally
somebody's got to do that stuff, right? Somebody has to get that stuff done. As you think about though doing new installs as you did before, when new installs are being done, do you try to get all the same equipment from similar manufacturers to try and have it all work together, or is there, like Gavin said, is there some amount that you just get the right protocol or
well, with on the custom integrator side, the professional side, right? Like that's their day job. That's how they feed their kids at night, right? So like it's a little different story. What they tend to do is train and learn one system and kind of stick with that. Maybe one or two. And depending on what the strengths of those two systems are, they'll kind of flip flop it back and forth between those. But switching to another brand of home automation, another brand of lighting, it's like a 5-year process for them typically. So it's not an easy thing to do, to switch over their business and build up another side of it. So when I was doing it, I started, we were kind of doing the Harmony remote things, and got burned on a lot of those. So had to go back and replace a lot of them. Apologize many times. Oh yeah. Many times. Probably 40 or 50 of them. Thank you, Logitech. Yeah. Not a good thing. And then we started, I think I started using a little bit of URC, and at the time we were Control 4 dealers. But they hadn't really released a product yet. They were very much in their startup phase. This is probably 10, 15 years ago. And after they kind of launched that, we pretty much standardized on that and kind of moved. That's been my main line. I've known and dealt with Lutron Caseta, Lutron Raw 2, all the way back. But it's not. Most of the stuff I use was like in my house here. I've got like all the Control 4 stuff still set up from those days.
Well, and is that the difference? Like when you're installing for someone else, they're not technically, or they're probably not most likely a home automation enthusiast. They just want it to work, right? For the most part,
it's a mixed bag. Yeah. What's interesting is when Gavin was talking about like standardizing on a protocol, like Control 4 is all Zigbee, right? But they used like back before Zigbee 3.0 existed. They had all these different profile things. I don't know. They had one called Zigbee HA, which is a home automation one. And that's kind of what they used. And when they did that, they kind of have like this I don't know how to call it, like a flavoring on top of Zigbee that you have to conform with, or it just doesn't work with their system. And it's not like I could go out and buy an Innovelli switch and pair it with a Control 4 system. It just won't work that way. But I did talk to somebody the other day at Control 4, and they said that's their goal, is they're moving all their devices, all the Zigbee devices. Their goal is to move them over to Zigbee 3. So, that would be kind of big and huge for, I think a lot of people who like me, may have a system that works fine with Zigbee. And then if I can get, some Innovelli switches and kind of mix things in, I'm fine with that. I do like things to look the same, so I wouldn't put like an Innovelli switch next to Control 4. I'd swap them out, but it comes down to kind of the aesthetic, the look, and then also what device works best, I guess.
Gavin, let me ask you this: I felt like there was a home automation phase, super exciting. Maybe follow the Gartner hype cycle, right? Where lots of innovation, lots of companies, and companies were bought by companies. Some companies stopped. We mentioned Logitech doing. It's not like Logitech stopped; they just stopped making the Harmony remote and then supporting it and some of those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
They make plenty of money, right? But I feel like, and I'll, maybe all of you can address this. I feel like we're in this trough of disillusionment that it's really I feel like consumers are buying some of this stuff, but they don't really know what they're doing with it. I mean, my wife bought a smart light bulb having no idea. She just bought one. She's like, it's smart. Just put it in. I was like, well, I might have bought a different one. She's like, aren't they all the same? So Gavin, do you feel like in this, we're to the point, there's us, there's you guys who talk about this all the time. You know how to do it. You know how to make it work. The average consumer, though, I don't hear him talking about it very much. Am I just out of the loop on stuff, or do you guys feel that too, Gavin?
I almost feel like with the people, there was a hype for it, and they went and got their smart speaker and stuff like that, and they had a bad experience with it. I feel like a lot of people I know just had a bad experience, and it's sitting on their desk muted now, and they don't even talk to it or use it. And a lot of it, I feel like confusion from, I'm not gonna say the major manufacturers, but all those small manufacturers that put the buzzwords on their products to try and get you to buy it. They use the words like smart, and then you go buy it and you realize this doesn't integrate with anything. Or even 2 years later, it doesn't work anymore because their cloud service is down, right? I think we're at the point where a lot of people got bit badly and they're either stuck in certain situations or they just can't bother, because there was also a period when there was a lot of issues you were having with certain Z-Wave products or certain Zigbee. A lot of people love the early Aquara devices, right? But the way they implemented their Zigbee, they would drop off other hubs, right? They were not reliable, and that was because the manufacturer did something different, right? Yeah. Their newer stuff's great and very reliable, but that gave people a bad taste that were really enthusiastic about it. Because they were constantly fighting these issues and stuff like that. And yes, I agree. And yes, you mentioned it. The innovation seems to be slowed down a lot now. Everyone's coming out with a Me Too. I call it the Me Too product. Like, hey, we have switches, we have contact sensors, but no one's really innovating as much as they used to be. And I'd like to see more innovation.
There is one Harmony remote user still out there. John says he's still using his Harmony remote with his
John
Windows.
and Gavin.
Yeah.
I have 5 Harmony remotes in my house, and I have one backup, and I bought them all used, so I got them at great prices. But the main reason why is because the TV experience in every room is the exact same.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I have the same remote. And so when the wife goes to any TV, it's the same experience in every room.
Yeah, it's the same reason whenever we're doing like Rokus and stuff at somebody's house. I'm like, you might as well just install Rokus on like all 5 of your TVs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need them though. And I'm like, you do though, because it's going to make it all the same and you're going to know how to operate every single TV.
Yep. Yeah, the same experience for sure. TJ, what do you think as far as is that question? What would you say to that?
I just don't think home automation is that important to most people. I think people use home automation to solve simple issues, and that's it. They don't need to automate all of their lights and their lawn mowing and everything else.
All
that
right,
goes
now
on.
you're getting
Shots
carried
fired.
away.
cut him off.
Shots
Cut him off.
fired.
Seth, what do you think now? Like
But I think it's one of those things that, like, most of the time when I go into, like, we do a lot of landscape lighting at my company. And most of the time we sell like a smart outdoor plug, usually a Lutron Caseta, because it's like the easiest way to control your landscape lights. And that's majority of the time, maybe close to majority of the time, that is maybe the only smart home product in their house. They don't have any other smart home product, and we use it just to turn the lights on and off at sunset and sunrise and everything like that. We're not using it for anything fancy. And I think that's what most people are doing. They're just automating a light or an outlet or whatever it is, and they don't need everything automated.
I have a question for TJ. So do you think the reason why is because people don't know what they can do with automation? Because people come to my house and they see certain things, they're like, I want that. I tell them no, but they never knew that was possible.
Yeah, I just think it's a time and effort thing, because if you so I was actually thinking today somebody should come up with a home assistant add-on to tell me how much time I spend in like the automation or devices tab, because it's just, you have to have a ton of time and effort into this stuff. And Gavin, you know this because I harass you sometimes. And I'm like, Gavin, can we set up like a Zoom call so you can help me set up this automation or figure Blue Iris out or whatever? And it's just, people don't have the time and resources and energy to do that. I mean, I barely do. And I really like doing this stuff. So,
Seth, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. Your face lit up when they were talking about that.
They're both right in a couple of respects, but I think they're dancing around. I mean, they're both saying the same thing essentially. Like, what? It's not a matter of money or time or effort, because I saw a ton of people throw a ton of money at these products over the years, and I saw a ton of people put a ton of time into using these products over the years. And what happened, I think, is everyone rushed out to get all of these things and they were promised all of these beautiful home automations and smart homes, and when they got it home, it was a significantly more expensive light bulb that they had just paid for that didn't do anything, and the expectation was not met in any aspect of this industry, and that is why it has basically fallen flat on its face. I think the only thing that is continued to this day to actually keep to maintain sales is like outdoor security and security doorbells, which have proven to be and gotten to be a little bit better over time. But as far as like even lighting control, I mean, it's still not a smart home. It's just automation, and that's not a smart home. Like, I still have to go tell it what to do, and I don't want to tell it what to do. I want it to figure out how I live, and I want it to use that information and privately, hopefully, instead of shuffling it off to some server somewhere, privately do that every single day and meet my expectation as I need it. And we do not have that today. We are not even close to that. I always go back to this. I had to look it up, and it's this horrible. It wouldn't matter. It was an okay show back in 2018 called The First. It had it was on Hulu. It had Sean Penn, and he was like the big name on there. And they had Sean Penn posters up everywhere, and it was like this Journey to Mars thing. But if you watch that show, it takes place somewhere in the near future. If you watch that show, they nailed what home automation should be. They nailed what the experience should be. There's all sorts of cool technology, the floating screens and big giant TV screens that disappear into your wall and that kind of stuff. But the little parts where they're walking into like this old looking home and they just say lights on, boom, the lights are on. Or they walk into a room and the lights barely dim on. They nailed what it should be. They figured it out in this TV show, and we should all aspire to what they did in this TV show, because it's really good.
All right, so our thermostats do some of that, right? Where they are doing some monitoring, some learning. They're trying to get it right and figure out your habits. They have sensors. They've got some input from you. As you think about lighting or some of those other home automation things, are they just lacking the ability to take input? Like, a light doesn't know you're in the room for the most part if it doesn't have a sensor on it. I don't know. Seth, thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
no, that's part of it. Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
again, as a consumer, why do I care? Like I had a light switch on the wall and I flip it and it worked just fine for
Right.
100 years, right?
Yeah.
We've got to replace that. It's a tall order if we've got to replace it. And oh yeah, we've got some homework for you to do. Can you fill out this form and tell us what And it's only going to work 80% of the time. And if the internet's down, it's not going to work at all. I mean, we really missed the boat on home automation for the past 10 years, and maybe longer. But it's an early industry. I still think we've got a ways to go. I tell people this all the time. We have had electricity for 100 years. We've had plumbing for a few thousand. We've had housing and roofs technology and walls and that kind of thing for a little bit longer. All that's been figured out. It's pretty standardized. Like you go down and you buy a fitting for your faucet, it's a known quantity. But if you go down and buy a smart light bulb, it's not. There's
the
no
Wild
way.
West.
It's the Wild
Will
West.
it will it standardize? Do you think, Gavin? Will it standardize? Do you see that coming?
They're working on it. That's what Matter is supposed to be doing, right? They're
But is
standardizing.
Matter
It's a piece
mattering?
of it.
Last time you were on, we asked that question.
I'm becoming skeptical again. We gotta get Daniel back on our show
You
because
gotta get him to sway us.
like the latest news of they're coming out with Matter 1.3, but now you're starting to see some fragmentation out there with what ecosystem has what version of Matter because they all have different features. They support different products. That's where I was worried was going to happen, and that's what's happening, and we'll see. But I think the next major milestone for home automation, this is again my opinion, is AI. I go if they get it to the point where they integrate AI with your home automation system, so you don't really have to program anything. You could just say, hey, when everybody leaves this house, turn on the alarm system, and it says yes sir, and that's all you have to do. And it knows that, hey, somebody just drove up. Well, someone, that lives here. Let me turn on these lights. Let me do this, without thinking, without you programming that all in. I think that's where the next step of home automation is going to go.
Abstract, exactly what Gavin's talking about. You abstract away these apps and all, like the control surface is just abstracted away. I want to tell something, either type it in or I tell it, just like we were talking about. I don't care. And it does it. That's all it needs to, like, hey, when I leave home, make sure you turn off the lights. And then I don't have to worry about it. And it's got to do it, right? It has to know how to do it. It has to know what app to go through and what button to press. But that shouldn't be on me.
Yeah, exactly. And even be smart to say, okay, he meant all the lights, but not the front door light, stuff like that. Like AI, it's very impressive what it's doing. And I'd like to see it get to that point.
Must be a firm believer in AI then, since you're always having co-pilot problems.
Wrong show. Don't get me started.
The other night we were having a thunderstorm that came through, and from time to time, we'll lose power for just a moment, just enough, right? Lights go off, lights come back on. Now everything here is plugged to everything. All the computer systems down here in the studio are running through a battery. I bought one of those solar generators, so it stays up just fine. But all the other home automation thinks, what had happened? I flicked the light switch. And what does that mean? Turn everything on, right? If it was off, turn it on. And so I'm down here working, and I go upstairs, and the upstairs is just blazing lit. The Christmas lights that I turned off weeks ago are all back on. And the front door is on full blast, and you're like, oh, I was like, what is going on up here? Why are all these lights on? And it's like, oh, we got the universal, up and on and off. I'd love to think, Gavin, to your point, that there would be a controller that could kind of think through that and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm monitoring these lights. They all came on full blast. That must have been a power surge. I'm going to reset that back to the previous condition, and then it would kind of set those back down. Is that, guys, do you think we're saying this, but do you think it'll happen in our lifetime that we'll get an AI smart enough? Seth, do you think we'll get an AI smart enough to actually do stuff like that?
Well, so the problem is that you're talking about a point device, a little one device. It doesn't know what's around it. It doesn't have any concept that the light's turned off. Like what you need is that step back, the it needs to have the perspective that you had when you walked in the door. Like, it needs to have the perspective that maybe the neighborhood has. There was a power outage and then the power's back on. That kind of stuff can definitely help make an AI or whatever we want to call AI. I'm not sure it's going to be an AI thing, but it can make it look smarter, and it really just has to prop up and look smarter. It's just got to be a little bit better than what we're doing now, and relieve a lot of this tenuous just automation gook that we have. Like, it's kind of awful right now, honestly. Like, across the board, professional, DIY, home assistant, doesn't matter what you're using. It's honestly, it's not what it should be. We're getting there.
Yeah, it is pretty annoying because it's like you're trying to set up an automation through Home Assistant, and it's like, for me, I have to I look up videos and all that stuff, but you really have to drill down on how it actually works and then keep refining it and everything like that. And it's AI, it would be nice for something like that because you would just tell it and be done with it.
The AI is coming. The AI is coming. I've seen some stuff I can't talk about, but they're working on stuff that's really, really impressive. And
that's a tease right there.
It's also scary. It's also scary when you see what it's doing too, because what if it decides that to protect us, it's got to destroy us? You know, like
you're the first one out, Gavin.
Wow.
I treat my robot vacuums with respect, so I'm safe, right? You guys don't.
Hey, look, the robot vacuum can't hurt you. What is it gonna do? Make you trip?
Brush you.
Yeah, it's gonna jump on your face and then turn itself on, and you won't be able to breathe. I bought a smart add-on for my garage door and installed it. Installed the app, connected it to Home Assistant, connected it to the Amazon devices, and I liked it. You could, you would say, "Hey, open the garage door." It asked for a code, and I give it a verbal code, and it opened. It closed. Then I set the schedule to close it. If I'd open it and stayed open for 30 minutes, close it. That was the worst thing I ever did, because I'd be out Saturdays working in the yard, open the garage door, go out, mow the lawn, come back around to get something out of the garage. It'd be closed.
Not like that. Don't do that.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that. So, come on.
I disabled that, and then at some point the automation broke. I don't know how these things happen, but the device just went offline.
That's normal. That's the
problem. It's a feature. It was like, you're not using me enough. Oh, if you don't want me to close the garage door automatically for you, I'll just go offline. I haven't missed it. That's the thing. The other day, the funny thing is, the other day my wife yelled out, "Hey lady, close the garage door." I'm like, oh, that hasn't worked in 6 months. I hope you didn't do that thinking it was closing.
We live in the same house.
So that happens to you too, right? Yeah. I was like, no, the garage door hasn't worked in a long time. I do think this, like, even as humans, we get stuff wrong. And I think we have this expectation for AI that it's just going to get it right every time. But I listen, life's complicated. People leave lights on. People make decisions to leave the garage door open. People or they wanted it open. How would the garage door know when I guess because would it say, "Oh, it's Saturday. Jim normally does yard work on Saturdays. I'm going to leave it open extra," or would it ask me? At some point, would it be smart enough to ask me and say, "Hey, do you want me to leave this open?"
It would be smart enough that it looks at your cameras and sees you walking out the garage to the side in front of the house and say, "Oh, he's probably out there doing gardening." Like, some of the AI stuff can actually identify the action you are doing, right, when you're out there on your video. So it can identify if you're cycling, if you're cleaning your car, stuff like that. So that's just information that's, like Seth said, fed into the AI. And it can make educated decisions based on that.
But who feeds this in, Gavin? We say that, but it'll be like, who's training this toddler?
On its own from your video feeds. That's what I'm saying.
That's the problem.
That's the scary part, right?
People in India right now. That's how it's happening.
Amazon Mechanical Turk machine names that up. Yeah. That's the problem with the large language model stuff. It's kind of like, I made this random number generator. here you go. And like, we don't know what it does. We just ask it a question and it comes back with a semi-coherent sentence that makes sense, and it sometimes is right. And it's way better than asking Siri about anything. So like, this must be artificial intelligence. But the same technology can be used to collect massive amount of sensor data, aggregate it, figure out what it does, and assign those little points that it signs, and then figure out what to do. That same technology can use that data, which is encouraging, because right now they're using it to, make dirty pictures or movies or whatever they're doing. But like at the same time, the same technology can be used to improve home automation, or improve automation, or improve your thermostat, like how efficient your thermostat operates during the day. You can take all the thermostat data from an area, throw it through one of these large language models, and it can look at the data and kind of figure out something that works 90% better than what you were doing before. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think there's got to be a way, though, to get input back into it when it gets it wrong.
I wish there was.
I think that's the missing. I think that's the missing for humans. That's pain, right?
Is.
We have pain. We have nerves, and when we make a mistake, we feel it, and then we go, "Oh, not going to do that again." Or it's emotional pain. I say something to someone else, and I lose that relationship, and I go, "Oh, I probably shouldn't talk like a jackass to to the people that way."
I'd be happy if we could say like bad Siri, and it would know.
No, right on.
But you wouldn't do that, because you would be on the bad list.
Use the robots.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true too.
Let's just admit
I say we make it simple. On some of the apps on your phone, whenever you shake your phone, it tries to do the diagnostic thing. I think we do something similar where we just clap twice, and that's how the smart home knows that it made a mistake.
Bring back the clapper.
Yeah.
Clap on.
That's right.
I think it's really well, obviously, if it wasn't complicated, they'd have this solved already, right? And so I think we have multiple layers of it, of whatever this let's call it home, advanced home automation for now, as opposed to AI. But we've got a bunch of layers to work through to figure out the feedback loop. I don't know if the technology holds us back, except in the case where the problem is this technology kept getting better and better and better. So they kept dropping, let's not use this protocol because that doesn't work very well. So we're going to go to this. And it was changing so fast. This was maybe the Harmony remotes problem in some regard. Things were just changing so fast. And Logitech says, I don't know if we want to play this game. Somebody just kind of said, let's get out of this thing while the going is good.
Yeah.
So
I think with them, it was more of a numbers game, like for the amount of support they threw into that. That's a big project.
Small audience, large,
and it's getting smaller because everybody's, like TJ just mentioned, everybody's getting a Roku and it's putting on or an Apple TV, and they've got that one remote on all their TVs. They don't need a Logitech Harmony.
Right.
So
yeah. The 5 folks that are still using it here
Gavin,
around the world, Gavin, John,
Brian,
and three other people, that are out there. Let's talk a little bit about outside. You'd mentioned robot vacuum cleaners, but I am perpetually debating this robot lawnmower, and I'm kind of glad that I waited because they keep getting better. I just saw this all-wheel drive mower, and it starts with an L. I forget, Lubick or
Luba, I think.
Luba. Yeah, Luba. I think
that's
you're
what
right.
I'm looking at too.
Yeah, it's about $2,500, probably $3,000. They are pricey. They're all-wheel drive. Yet I am working on getting my yard smaller and smaller and smaller. So I kind of think, no, maybe I could use a little exercise. Seth, TJ, I think you guys have them. Gavin doesn't, which surprises me a little bit. But what do you think? What's the state? TJ, I'll start with you. State of robot mowers today. You think?
Yes, Seth definitely bought one first, but I just bought one a couple weeks ago. I wanted to wait until they could drive themselves, and I have to do the boundary wire around the whole property.
Right.
And I got the Segway Navimo I110N, and I think it's capable of a 1/4 acre. But it has the RTK plus vision, and so it's kind of cool with the app. You drive it around the property to show it where to mow, and then it just goes and does its thing afterwards. And it does a pretty good job. Of course, as soon as I got this thing, it started raining like every other day, and so I haven't been able to test it out fully. But
Can't you drive it in the rain? Is that one of those things?
You can, but it has like a rain detection and it says not to. Basically, it gums it up pretty easily.
Yeah.
And so it's actually funny. The first day I got it, my grass, it was probably between like 3 and 4 inches tall. And on the manual, it was like, oh, give your grass a cut before you use it for the first time, so have something fresh to start off with. And I was like, heck no, we're going to go ahead and just cut everything.
What did I pay for?
Yeah, like, well, I just paid $1,300 for this thing. We're going to give it a shot and see how it
that
goes.
Robot was like negative check.
Yep, I'm
this
first
guy's
one out
already abusing me.
Yeah, good thing it has really tiny blades on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I drove around the whole yard. It cut all the grass. It's pretty cool. Whenever it got stuck, it would just it got itself unstuck. I mean, I don't have any like super steep inclines or big potholes or anything like that in my yard, so it does a pretty good job, and I've been happy with it so far. The only thing I don't like is because it uses GPS, you have to have a GPS antenna in your yard, and the GPS antenna cannot be near other obstacles. And so you have to space it off 2 meters from your house and any large trees. And as you're driving it around, it kind of checks the GPS signal as well. And it tells you where you should place it in the yard. And of course, it's not where you want to place it.
No.
So I have to find a permanent home for it now if I'm going to keep it.
Okay. Yeah, it's like put it over the pool. There's nothing there.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
I have an outlet that's like right next to like my air conditioner, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. There's nothing really over there, and it's too close to the house. So,
what'd you pay for it, if I can ask?
Yeah, it was like $1,300.
Okay.
So I made it a promise to myself that I would offload some electronics in order to buy it.
Oh.
So I sold some stuff and I put the money towards it, and it was between that and a used Husqvarna Automo. Those have integration with Home Assistant. Those ones are pretty expensive too, but they have the boundary wire, and I'm not trying to deal with that.
No, right on. Seth, what about you? What do you have?
I have this little. I have the boundary wire. I have the dumb version. I paid like maybe $400 or $500 for mine.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know how I got that. It was on Amazon. I saw it. I'm like, oh, bingo, there we go. But I've got the boundary. I had to go around and put the boundary wire in. It does break from time to time. You have to fix it. Find where it's broken and fix it. Although it's usually pretty easy to find because there's a wire sticking out of your lawn. It's not the greatest lawnmower. I don't know if I would recommend it for anybody, but it does do the job, and it did keep me out of like doing the lawn work over the summer. Right now, it's about time to start mowing the lawn again.
Yeah.
And the power company is coming through and ripping up my front lawn to put in power. Like they're burying the old telephone pole wires, I guess. Yeah. So there's still a mess out there, and I've sent him. I call mine Clippy, so I've sent him out a couple of times, and he's done a little bit of work, but then he'll get stuck in one of the holes that they've dug.
Yeah.
So, I don't try to help him. He just, when he falls in a hole, I just leave him there and scold him.
Did you keep a push mower as backup, or did you get rid of it?
I still have. What I did get rid of was this giant riding. What caused this whole thing for me was I had this big riding lawnmower. I have a larger piece of land in the back of my yard that's like a giant slope that goes down into a creek, and it's pie shaped. Like the front yard's not very big, but the backyard is too big because of this pie shaped property I have. And it's not fun to mow. And I finally got this big lawnmower from somebody, and it was just awful. It kept breaking. It was a big maintenance thing to do, and I hated mowing anyway. So I got rid of that, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy this other lawnmower and put it in. And so that Clippy's been running around doing fine for about, I think, a year or so. I think I've had him about a year now. And,
is it random? Is it just random? It doesn't leave lines.
It's completely dumb. Yeah.
This Lubo is leaving lines, and you're like, ooh, well, this thing's kind of cool. Is it Lubo? Is that what Luba?
Yeah, I think
Luba.
It's Luba.
Yeah.
Luba.
That's the only one I've seen that can handle that slope that I have, and also, I have a particular kind of grass that really doesn't work well if you cut it less than like 4 inches. Like if you cut it 6 inches, that'd be great. But it's like this Florida grass, and if it's eat out all the weeds and everything, and if it's short, then it starts to die out or look brown and not good. So
Zoysia, is it Zoysia grass?
Not Zoe. That's the shorter one. It's
Okay.
I forget
Bermuda?
Bahia grass or something like that.
Okay.
It's the Florida natural grass
Yeah.
that they have in the fields here, but it just needs to be a little bit taller than most of these lawnmowers can handle.
Mowers will do.
Yeah.
Will do. Gavin, how come you don't have one? I would think of anybody. I mean, I know you live in Canada,
Yeah,
but why don't you have that seemed like the perfect environment for a robot lawnmower.
that's the part that upsets me the most because I was the first to like want one, and these guys got it before me. Like that hurt. That hurt. Like a couple years ago, I was looking at them, but they were still $3,000-$4,000 back then, right? So every time I cut the lawn, I'd check the price. You know, next week I cut the lawn, I check the price again. But this year, I find that the prices have dropped significantly, and they're now like you can find them in the $1,000 range with good features. You know, and I expect it to actually continue to drop. And you know, it'll reach a point when I can finally convince the wife that I should get one. I'm only other reason I'm hesitant is because I reduced my lawn in the back, so I don't have much back there. All my lawn's in the front, but I'm also nervous that this thing will get stolen in my neighborhood, and that it'll be out there cutting. And I don't mind as long as they return it when they realize it doesn't work, but they're not going to return it. So doing the whole claim and stuff
Put it
like
in a
that.
dumpster somewhere, call it good.
Exactly.
This Luba 2, just to be clear, this setup is you drive it around, you install the app, and then you drive it around your yard, mapping it out, and you can map out, you can move it, map out. TJ, I think you said, what's the device? RTK?
RTK Plus Vision.
What does that stand for?
Heck if I know.
Okay.
The centimeter GPS protocol or whatever. It gets on the centimeter level GPS.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because I've heard that, and it reminds me of that movie Looper when they have the TK, the folks that have do you guys know? Did you ever see the movie Looper? They have they have a TK gene, and they can make things telekinesis in their hands like that. So whenever I've heard that RTK, I'm like, what? Now I know the difference. So thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, so let's see, where was I going with that? So Gavin, no, you're waiting on money.
Yeah,
you're waiting for the okay.
Wait for the CFO to approve it.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the Luba right now, and the Luba 5000 is $4,000 in Canada dollars.
Yeah, wow. It's all-wheel drive though. It's like the Subaru of
Do you need like a super expensive one though? If you don't have that big of a yard, do you have a big slope or anything?
I have a significant slope at the side, so that's the problem, but one day I will get there,
It creates stripes. That's the thing. It creates stripes.
What's the going rate for a kidney right now?
Canadian money? I mean, you guys got free healthcare, so
I have two of them. I only need one,
American.
right?
Yeah, you got to come down here.
Sell it to an American. I'm sure they'll buy it.
All right.
Oh God. What do you guys think? This is getting asked, or Tony asked this in chat. What do you think? I think by the way, I think robot vacuum cleaners are pretty good at this point. They've got a lot of good ones. The prices are pretty good on those. Those have kind of standardized. But what do you think about these snow blowers? Now, Seth, you don't have to worry about snow. TJ, Gavin, exactly. You do. And Seth, just pretend for a second you get, a little bit of fluffy white stuff. Do you think all the electric snow blowers I've seen haven't really lived up to their expectations? But in the fall, do you guys start looking at like, could I get a robot snow thrower?
I haven't personally, because we just don't get that much snow to justify it.
Yeah.
We maybe get a couple inches at a time. So going out with a shovel to shovel my sidewalk, my driveway isn't that inconvenient. And I could probably just pay a kid to do it if I wanted to. So
yeah, not worth it. Gavin, what about you? You get a little more snow than we do.
Yeah, we get a little bit more snow, but I also feel like when we get snow, it falls faster than this a robot snowblower would be able to keep up with it, and it gets heavy once you get so much. So they'll be dangerous, right? Like I think it's a safety issue. I'd be more nervous about a robot snowblower. I've seen them where they have the attachment, turns it from snowblower into lawnmower, etc. But I'd be a little nervous about letting that thing go on the driveway.
Yeah, Seth, you mentioned it. Yours has got little blades, so if you
Yeah, they're wrong.
even if you put your hand underneath the thing and it didn't stop, it's not going to like take your hand off. These to get snow a significant distance, you got to have an auger moving pretty fast, right? And yeah, you're probably right, Gavin. I don't know if I'd, and I like clearing snow. That's one of those things. I like mowing too. This has been the hard part. Is there is something satisfying for me about mowing. Could be it's the only exercise that I get on a regular basis. So, you're like, my daughter, when I was going to pick up a robot vacuum cleaner, she's like, Dad, that's like the one exercise that you get during the winter. She was right.
Shots fired.
True.
She's right.
Also, you don't have 70 or 80% humidity during the summer.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's
Yeah.
Well, my thing too is I don't mind the mowing the grass for me. It's just it needs it so often. I feel like it's just one of those things that's nice where I don't have to worry about it. Just walk out and mess with the garden and stuff like that, and I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
The way these work, they're really cool because they just go out and they mow a little bit, right? They're not like me where when I go mow, they really need to be mowed. Like I'm
you
out
want
there
it
just
to mean something.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like,
There's a
it's gonna
line
look
where I
like that.
the grass goes from like 14 inches down to 3 or something. Like there's a significant there's piles and piles of grass cuttings after it. But the idea behind these is they just consistently are out there doing their thing, and kind of just keeping it at a normal level. And it's just that constant mowing. Like during the summer here, the little guy would be out mowing the lawn, and he was just bouncing around in the backyard. But after a week or two, or after a week here, with some rain, where he stopped, like I had to take a weed eater and level that off with the rest of the grass, because you definitely notice. What I really would like to see, or I mean, I think it's coming. I'm pretty sure it is because I think like Husqvarna has some commercial versions of this. There's gonna be a time where lawn services companies are renting these to you or leasing these to you and just building it as part of their services, and they'll stick them in the lawn, they'll take care of them. There are maintenance to these, so if you guys are like TJ, you're about to learn, but like every week or two you're going to be replacing those little blades because they do get dull, and the battery will work harder to cut grass if they're dull, and you'll have to just swap out the little razor blades. It's not a big maintenance. It gets dirty, it gets clogged up. Sometimes you got to get out there and with a screwdriver and clean it out or whatever. So there's still maintenance to them. So I think it makes a lot of sense for a company to go drop one of these off in your yard, set it up, make it do its thing, and then once a week they still come by, not in a giant rig with the out here in Florida, it's crazy. Right. They have these rigs with trailers and giant lawnmowers that they're so loud all day, but they just come out and they could edge and blow out the leaves and everything, and everything would still look great. I think that's coming. It's somebody's going to figure it out and how to do it and price it right and sell it to these little companies that are out there doing it.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good thought. That's actually a nice segue. We'll end on this last segment here. We'll do a little bit of a lightning round. I want to ask you guys, Seth, you led the way here, a future product that you're kind of got your eyes on right now that may not be fully mature yet, but is showing some promise. I won't even call on names. It's just as you think of something, just say it and say why, and then we'll move on to the next person. What do you think? Who's got a product? Seth already did his.
I'll just say I did mine. Yeah,
you can do it again if you want. But what are you looking at, TJ or Gavin? What are you looking at that you're excited we did a lot of trash talking of home automation in the beginning of this. Let's do a little positive. What kind of things are we looking forward to in the future?
Gavin's going to say Matter 3.1.
All right, TJ, you've been nominated. You go first.
Yeah, I think so. One thing I've been really getting into recently, and I think I'm a little late to the party, but maybe not, is the white tunable LED bulbs. I've been messing with in Home Assistant. There's an add-on called adaptive lighting, and adaptive lighting basically turns on the correct color temperature and the brightness for the time of day, depending on the lights and everything like that. And so a couple, I don't know, a month ago, two months ago, something like that, I installed some recessed lights in the kitchen. I installed some recessed lights in the hallway, and I went with Philips Hue RGBW recessed can lights in those, and they're paired to a Innovelli smart switch. And they turn on with motion, and they turn off without motion, but they also adjust the color, temperature, and the brightness depending on what time of day it is. And so the goal is to not get blinded by light in the morning or at nighttime or anything like that. It does a mostly good job. There's a lot of parameters you can adjust, but honestly, I'm running pretty much the stock stuff, and it does a really good job. And so we're working on this pantry build out right now, and I need to get some lights into the pantry, and I think I'm going to do those the white tunable LED strips in the pantry, just underneath each shelf. That should be enough light in there, I would think. But just automatically adjust to the daytime light outside.
What's a good, if I thought about that 1,000 number, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000? I know everybody's got a different opinion on that, but TJ, is there a if you were going to have the optimal light for you in that range, what would you set it at?
I mean, I kind of bounce around between like 3,000 and 4,000. Okay. 5,000 is nice depending on what you're doing in the area and stuff like that, but it's mainly 3,000 to 4,000 for me.
Okay. Yeah. I only know that I bought some new studio lights, and they're dumb. So I got to turn them on. I can't set them through the automation, but they have dials in the back that you can dial it in. And so I've been messing around with the different to see what I like. And sometimes I set one color and one the other just to bounce them off, so it's not all the same whiteness down here. But I'm still kind of messing with that in my camera to try and get it right. I'm still a little white tonight on this. I think I need to dial it in some more. So I'm still kind of working on that. Gavin, what about you? What are you excited about?
Well, I think I talked about this before last time I was on the show, but I'm looking forward to battery-powered millimeter wave sensors. And I talked about millimeter wave sensors before. I think they're amazing. Like they're not motion sensors. They're kind of like occupancy sensors. They tell you when somebody's in the room, and you can base a lot of automations off that, and you could sit still and it still detects you in the room. The problem is everything out right now, it uses a lot of battery power, so everything out right now, you have a USB cord, and I don't know why it's always a USB cord, because I never have a place to cleanly plug this into, but
yeah,
everything's a USB cord, and it's ugly. But recently, one of our listeners let us know that they ordered some battery powered ones. We're gonna see how well they work, but the fact that they came out is the first step in moving in that direction, and I think it'll just get better from there. So once we have battery powered millimeter wave sensors that can last a good amount of time, I'm gonna be jumping on them for my next purchases.
What's a good amount of time for you?
I'm looking like a year. Like if you could get a year out of them, I'm good with that.
Yeah, you're right. I've noticed this trend to short USB cables for short ones coming, and you're like, where did you expect me to plug this thing into? Like what's the, Seth, maybe to your desire to get rid of cables, those would be an absolute nightmare, right?
They already are, because I have the Aquara one, and it comes with like a 45-foot long USB cable. I don't know what they were thinking. And I've just it's nice where I put it. It's kind of in a utility room area, and I was able to not hide the wire completely, but at least get rid of it. Man, the USB thing is not great for hiding wires either, because in the wall they have to be a specific rated wire. If you're going to professionally install stuff like for fire code, it has to be a specific wire, and you don't get that from these little USB cables. So I would love to see, just give me terminals.
Power over Ethernet.
Yeah, PoE would be nice.
Yeah. PoE.
I would literally install them in every in the ceiling of every room if they just came out with a PoE one.
But the average user doesn't have PoE, or
no, nobody cares about that.
No one cares about it.
Yeah, these lights that I bought, they are 20 watts each, which is a little bit of that's pulling a little bit of juice.
Right, yeah.
For a USB device. And I had to get a a power converter that was rated for that, because it would smoke I mean, just your cheap ones that you get will just smoke it, right? Up in smoke. And they were this long. And I was like, how am I going to get them? It's not like I'm going to put a USB extension cable, on them like one of these. I just smoke that extension. So it took a little bit of rigging and some things to get it all figured out. But it was one of those, I was like, I mean, it was definitely a cheap Chinese set of lights. Let's just be really clear about that. I kind of wanted to try this. These are flat lights that are diffused and had a knob, had the knob to adjust them. And before I bought a really good set, I wanted to try these out. So I thought I'd get these in here and I can give them away to somebody in the future. But it was one of those things where I realized, oh, this USB power thing is out of control. Yeah. Like it's just, it's just the cabling is awful. For some of these things. Seth, I didn't tell you this was going to be the subject, and I just used you as an example. Anything else you want to add now that you've heard the other two that you're excited about?
I thought of something briefly while Gavin was talking, and then promptly forgot it after I drank some more Negroni. But maybe it'll come back to me one day. All
right. Well, we'll maybe talk a little bit about what are you guys excited about? Seth, we'll start with you. Talk a little bit what you're excited about. What's coming up on hometech.fm and what you guys are doing there, and anything you got anything planned for our summer that maybe you want to highlight on the show?
Oh, I mean, there's always something we're up to. I mean, I have plenty of projects we can talk about that are in process. And see, we talked about how like I may not finish them, but we didn't say like I never committed the end date. So the projects are open. I know how to manage that time.
Open-ended?
Yeah, they're just open.
Open-ended. By the way, that wasn't me. I didn't say that. Gavin said that. Let's just be really clear about that.
I'm looking out for you, Seth.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, no, we've got all sorts of. I mean, we always come up with something to talk about. I think the biggest thing, the most fun thing we're having right now is our stickers campaign that we're doing.
Well, what's that?
Well, TJ stole a bunch of stickers I had.
Whoa, I didn't steal them. You gave them to me, and then I forgot that I had them in my pocket.
So TJ has all the stickers, and the other day we were thinking about like what fun things we could do, and turns out he had the stickers because I thought I had them. No, he has them, and we were like, let's just mail them off. So if when you're listening to our show, we tell you where to contact us, and TJ will eventually mail you a sticker.
Nice.
We may even open the offer up here. If you contact us through the show here, we'll send you a sticker at some point. That's what I keep saying. Seth and Gavin keep giving me grief. I'm like, it's just we'll send it when it happens. It's a free sticker.
Well, what I'd really like for them to do, if they haven't done this, many folks that listen to this show have done this already, but head over to hometech.fm, listen to one of the shows, get the address that you need, and then request the sticker, and they'll send it to you. I'd love you to listen to one of the shows, not just contact me. I mean, you can. I always love to hear from you guys, but
if you're in it just for the sticker, that's fine too. I mean, you can just be in it for the sticker.
TJ, what about you? What did you think about what's coming? Anything you're excited about from the show perspective coming up? You got anything you want to pimp before I let you go?
Not necessarily. I think we're working on a couple interviews that haven't materialized yet. So cool. I don't want to name anything specific at the moment, but if you pay attention in the future, that might pop up on your radar.
Another good reason to subscribe, hometech.fm. Get out there, get subscribed to it so you don't miss those interviews. Gavin, what about you?
I'm with Seth here. I'm loving this sticker campaign, right? And the best part about it is people that write in to the stickers, they quote things you said, or they'll mention things you're doing, or they'll thank you and say how much you love the show. And that feedback really means a lot, because sometimes you're recording and you just think no one listens. That one play was me, just testing if it still works. But no, when we get this we got a lot of feedback from around the world.
That is nice.
And it's been pretty amazing when they thank you. They thank me for, helping them spend money, for example.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do.
It's true.
Yeah, I think it's worked out pretty good. I mean, we're sending stickers to the UK and Sweden and Ireland and Australia, all kinds of places. So
is that difficult in the US Post to get those things?
I have no idea. So
I don't know
if you know this, but you can buy a lot of stamps for very cheap off like Facebook Marketplace. And so I bought 200 postal stamps for like $30. and so we're just gonna go for it.
Bootleg stamps.
Just
Oh,
put
it's-
them on.
They're like legit rolls of stamps that you would buy, but I
Yeah.
think they're like older versions or something. I don't know how the postal service.
Seth,
works,
are you
to be honest.
questioning this? Are you questioning
I have
this?
already registered my concern that this may be some type of mail fraud that's taking place, but you know, we'll just let it roll with. We'll see what
I've bought
happens.
them before. It's fine so far.
Yeah, it's
I've
somebody
gone for at
bought
least
them,
100,
bought
I mean.
too many of them, and then they need to get rid of them, right?
Fell off a truck. Who knows?
Yeah. I didn't really know there was a black market for stamps anymore.
If you're on Facebook, just type in stamps, and there's all kinds of posts for stamps, and they're pretty cheap.
That's okay. All right. Well,
He's not
now
wrong.
we know.
So you know,
Now we
yeah.
If you're going to prison, you know what to take in with you. Just
I'm
take in
taking
some
Seth
black
down with
market.
me.
Take some black market. No, I mean not for selling the stamps.
Gavin's
I
out
mean
of
just for
country.
other things. Then stamps are the currency inside
the
of prison,
Mounties
so you'd
coming
be
for 'em.
okay both ways. You'd be okay. Can I take a few with me? You would say on the way in. Well, gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate it. Seth, great to have you on the program. Thanks for coming out and being a part of it. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
TJ, great to have you back as well. And thanks for all your insights. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely, good to be here.
And Gavin, thanks for getting these hoodlums to show up tonight. It was I pinged Gavin, said you want to be on. He's like, I think I can get Seth and TJ too. Is that okay?
I think going forward, we should have the team. It should be a team thing, you know. Like, you fill the hour really nice.
Yeah, it fills up, but I like it. You know, you guys talk smack about each other when I have you on individually,
Okay,
so that's
okay.
kind of nice too.
Well, yeah, what's great is we can constantly give Seth grief for not posting the show before you, because I mean we recorded the show like Tuesday this week, and it's not going to be out till like Tuesday next week. So we've got to give him some grief, and that'll add to it.
This will be out Saturday, Seth. So I'm just saying.
Sometimes Friday.
Saturday. Sometimes Friday if I got something going on Saturday, but there's not a lot of things I do consistently in my life, but most of the time we get the podcast. But it's a lot of work. And working with these two yahoos, I am not surprised it takes because you got to kind of clean it up, right? I mean,
there's
right?
so, I don't know how you got TJ with not, you know, TJ didn't curse at all tonight.
Yeah.
Usually I got a lot of bleeps to put in. So.
Oh,
Because I'm live, I can't do it. But honestly, Seth runs pretty much the whole show. I don't know about Gavin. I feel like Gavin works in IT, so I feel like this is true too. But we just show up and we talk, and Seth does all the work. So
I understand.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I had the links and stuff in to help him.
Yeah, it's definitely a team effort. I think at this point.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Listen, I do Ask the Podcast Coach with Dave Jackson. He does all the work. I just show up on Saturday mornings, and it's pretty great. Now I have to do all the work at work, so I figure for the work podcast, I do enough work here. Here, if I just get great guests, and you guys are great guests, the show just happens. Gavin did provide a few notes for me. We used a little bit of them. And you guys were awesome. So thanks for coming on. Hang tight for me 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I want to remind everyone that Home Gadget Geeks, powered by Maple Grove Partners, get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. And you know Christian, he's still got plans at $10. He was on last week's show. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it and check it out today. MapleGrovePartners.com. You can send show feedback next week. I'll be reading some of that feedback first thing on the show. And so you can send that to me, Jim@theaverageguy.tv, if you want to send those things in. A few of you have. Jim Shoemaker, Neil sent me an email. So if you guys want to send those in, I'll be reading those as well. Join the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord, if you want to join us there. And then go out right now. As soon as I'm done, I want you to go out to hometech.fm. Listen to one episode if you haven't. Just grab one, the newest one, go listen to it, right? Then I want you to tell me that you really enjoyed it. And then you're going to write the Home Tech guys and tell them they enjoy it because they just said they like feedback. So you owe it to them. Get it done. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. For those of you who joined us live, thanks for coming out. We maybe do a little bit of a post show. For everybody else, with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Gents, thank you. Thanks for coming on tonight.
This was awesome.
Fun.
Yep, thank you.
Good to have you. No, super fun. Appreciate all the willingness to hang around and be goofy and have fun. I had a really tough day at work. Actually, I've had a really tough week, and I was like, at one point today, I was like, you know how it goes. Sometimes you're like, I got a podcast tonight, you know, and I was like, well, at least I got some great folks joining me. So you guys did a nice job of perking me up. So thanks for supporting me on this. And,
Catch on your
making
toes.
Podcast fun. Yeah. Well, no, you guys are easy. This is so like interviewing podcasters is my favorite thing because you guys know, you kind of know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, you kind of know how to do it. So, guys, joining us live. Thanks for coming out. Well, you guys hang tight for 1 second. If you join us live, thanks for coming out. Go buy a robot vacuum cleaner or something, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.